combined heat and power, wasted energy right there. Wind, 25 to 70 terawatts, natural gas, petroleum, uranium, and then coal, 900 terawatts a year. So there's more energy striking the earth in just every 104, enough sunlight strikes the earth every 104 minutes to power the entire world for a year. That's kind of hard to imagine, right? You say, how much solar would it take to make all the electricity for the United States? Do y'all have any idea how big of an array we would have to have? Not very big. The United States is 3.797 million square miles of land. Okay? The United States, 3.79 million square miles. It would only take 8,100 square miles to make all the electricity for the United States. That's a little postage stamp in Arizona. It's actually 90 miles, it's not a 90 square miles, it's 90 miles this way, 90 miles that way, 90 miles this way, and 90 miles back this way. That's how you get the 8,100 square miles, is a 90-mile square. So why are we not doing it, right? Well, here's a chart that I just picked up out in Colorado in August. There's the International Energy Agency and the World Energy Outlook predictions. And this is an interesting chart because in 2002, this was their projection of what annual solar photovoltaic additions would look like. Then in 2004, they revised it to this level. And in 8 or 6, they revised it to this level. And in 8, they revised it here. And this is the actual growth of new solar installation. So even with all this information here, this was their last projection. So it's like a complete state of denial as to what's happening. Unfortunately, in Arkansas, we have the 13th highest solar resource of all the United States. Arkansas does. Guess what our installed capacity is?
49.
49. Yeah, and there's a good reason for it. And I'm going to cover it briefly here because I've been in the trenches on this for, since 1999. So we have all the technologies we need to solve all the challenges facing humanity. And it's the political will and the societal, basically a lot of our neighbors have been brainwashed by the propaganda campaign waged by the oil and gas and the electric utility industries. So we don't even believe the truth anymore. We believe what they told us. It used to be if you heard something 3 times, it was fact, right? You got it. Now it's up to about 6. And we probably heard their messaging 60 times. So a lot of us have been brainwashed as to what really is the reality of the situation. Solar's on fire. I ask people all the time, is it cheap enough for you now?
Wow.
75, it was $101 per watt, and now it's less than 44 cents. And that was 16th. Today it's probably like 30 cents a watt. So there's no excuse not to do solar today. And in the global installations, of course, the rest of the world is putting the U.S. to shame. But maybe eventually we'll catch up. Watch your angle. We're at 36 degrees latitude. This is showing the sun angle depending on which time of year it is. So what's the ideal, the next slide here is called the angle of incidence. This is not an accident out on the highway. It's called the angle of incidence. That's where, if you go back to this chart, you say, well, an angle like this would catch all of these different variations in the sun angle. Well, basically you're matching, that's like 36 degrees right there. Well, that's where we are in Arkansas, 36 degrees latitude. So that's a good angle of incidence. If you have less angle of incidence, you're gonna make more energy in the summer. If you have more, you're gonna make more energy in the winter. So this is a kind of a happy medium. Now, there are people out there that believe using trackers, solar tractors, where they're facing east in the morning, and then they crank. Well, the beauty of a solar electric panel is there are no moving parts. There's really nothing. You fit these things on a support structure, and basically you can forget about it. There's nothing to do. If you add a tractor in, you got plenty of other issues. If any of y'all are farmers, you're running your tractor, not your tractor, you know, they're always subject to repairs and breakdowns and so forth. Same with the wind machine. When, you know, I showed you how much is harvestable from the sun, when I said that, I said, well, I'm not a disbeliever in wind, but wind has a lot of moving parts to it. Not only that, it's a fraction of the harvestable energy that solar is. And in Arkansas, guess where our wind resource is? What elevation?
What elevation?
Yeah.
Way up there.
Yeah, 40 stories tall, 85 meters in the air. How many of us could afford a $1.2 million wind machine in our backyard? And would our neighbors let us do it? And that would make enough energy for the whole neighborhood, right? So let's talk about a $10,000 array, a $20,000, a $30,000, a $40,000, or $50,000 solar array. And you don't even have to have it on your roof or in your backyard anymore. Y'all aware of that? We're going to cover that before we run out of time. 306, getting there. The angle of incidence. Okay, this building was not designed with the sun in mind. You may recognize it. We spent a lot of time here with very little success, actually. The guys working in that building are the main reason we're 49th in installed capacity. Because they know who their friends are, right? And they do what their friends tell them to do. And how do you make a friend in that building? Okay?
Is that some panels I'm seeing, or is that
No,
glass right there?
that's just glass. Oh, right here? Yeah, that's skylight.
Okay.
All it takes is money. And they will listen.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to go through pretty quickly a history of some of the policies that we've tried to get passed in the legislature, and going to show some of the failures and some of the successes. But I put this in because I was at a conference last week, a sustainability conference, and I had a representative from the Attorney General's office. And historically, the Attorney General of Arkansas has been all for renewable energy, not so much the current one. So her representative was there telling the entire group, well, if you want renewable energy legislation, go to the legislature and get it. I'm thinking, you don't know what you're talking about. That's all we've been doing, right? In 2001, we got net metering. Now, net metering, and basically wrote the bill so that there would be no money exchanging hands. We made the utility meter is the cash register. And all you're doing is trading kilowatt hours back and forth with the utility. So I commissioned the first net metering facility on Entergy's network in Arkansas. And it was a brand new house built out of insulated concrete forms. And this core right here was drilled by the electrician so that the plumber could put the exhaust pipe in for the tankless gas water heater. We forgot to put a sleeve in the wall. And we had to have him set this thing up and drill this hole out. So Net metering is still in existence. We are in a rate docket right now where the utilities would like to take us back to 2000. Unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna happen. Because facts do matter at the Public Service Commission, they don't matter at the legislature. So, any net metering house is making their electricity and consuming it on site first. But if they go to work and there's no lights on and the air conditioner's off and they're making electricity and they're not there to consume it, it goes back to the utility for credit, right? And then when they come home at night and the sun is down, especially starting Sunday, right? Then they buy some of those kilowatt hours back. And at the end of the month, they avoided buying electricity a lot. They sent excess energy back, and then they had to buy some electricity, and you paid the net difference. So there's no money changing hands. But the beauty of net metering is that you don't pay the taxes on the energy costs, on the kilowatt hours, because if you didn't consume them, they can't tax you for them. So installing a solar array then and now it's a tax-free return. So it's significant. You can make your electricity for less than half of what you're buying it for today with solar. The big hurdle is, how do I come up with the upfront money to buy my electricity for the next, you make one single investment and you're good for 30 years, right? So there's still tax credits, we'll cover that too. So passed in '01, hashed it out in '02, we got it improved in '07 because out of the gate, the utility said if you make more energy in one billing period than you consume, then you forfeit it, you give it to them with no money, you know, they're not gonna give you any credit for it. So it wouldn't make sense to make 105% of your electricity if you're gonna be forfeiting it. We got it improved, said, okay, instead of at the end of the billing period, we're gonna do it and forfeit it at the end of the calendar year, which is still a bad deal. Then we brought, 2009, we brought this bill, couldn't make it out of the committee meeting, even though the governor and the University of Arkansas, everybody was for it except for the guys with the money and the friends in the legislature. So it failed. The governor was quoted as it was the biggest disappointment of the 2009 session. He says, design us a program that would mimic what that bill would have done for us. Because the problem was, we got net metering in 2002. By 2009, there were less than 50 net metering systems in Arkansas.
Well,
Yes.
part of that, like where I'm at, they said they won't do it. Entergy.
In Arkansas, there,
Entergy said they
That
can't do
would
it,
be-
so if you do it, you have to go 100% off grid and not count on their electricity.
that would be one LIE. And we hear that all the time, whether it's the cooperatives or Entergy. They are lying to you,
So that's what they.
plain and simple. So, we designed this technology rebate program, and in 18 months, there were 150 systems installed, brand new net metering arrays installed in Arkansas because of this. And all it was said, you put in an array, it's gonna make X amount of electricity, you're gonna have to send us your bill from Entergy, and we will pay you 25% of the installed cost over a calendar year. And each quarter you submit that, and you get your rebate back. Well, people did that. We less than 50 systems in, 7 years, and we did 150 systems in 18 months. And now we're probably up to about 600 systems in the state. Then we came up with clean, local energy, accessible now. Couldn't make it out of the committee meeting. Then we come back in 13. As you know, our legislature only meets every 2 years in a general session. 9 couldn't make it out of the committee meeting. 11 couldn't make it out of the committee meeting. 13 couldn't make it out of the committee meeting. Just go to the legislature and get the policy you want, right? That was her advice, or his advice last week. We got a little improving, instead of it forfeiting it at the end of the calendar year. They had some convoluted formula. You lose it all by April if you didn't consume it. Still not a good deal. Then these guys step in, the Public Service Commission. We've had some good success. Well, and their priority was this. The state of Arkansas installed a solar array in downtown Little Rock near a parking lot at the Economic Development Commission. And Entergy wouldn't let them hook it up because they have mutual indemnity, or they have sovereign immunity. You know, governments have sovereign immunity. You can't sue the government, right? Well, so in Fayetteville, the city of Fayetteville Library, they installed a solar array, and their government entity, and their provider is SWEPCO, Southwestern Electric Power Company. All the parties sit down to sign the agreement, and some attorney's looking at it and said, uh-oh, this says mutual indemnification. We're not going to be able to sign this contract. The SWEPCO attorney took out a Sharpie and drew through it, redacted it, and initialed it. Everybody initialed it, and they signed it, and then they commissioned the array. Entergy in Arkansas says, So the National Park Service in Hot Springs, Arkansas Tech University in Russellville, and the state here all did arrays, and they couldn't commission them. So the PSC said, we're going to fix that. And while we're at it, this is the secret to the sauce. Adds meter aggregation to net metering rules. Have any of y'all ever heard of meter aggregation? Okay, well, I commissioned the first meter aggregated facility on Entergy's network in 2014. And I'll show you a picture of my geodesic dome later, but if you know a geodesic dome, there's no flat spot on it. There's no place to put a solar array. And in Arkansas, we're blessed with trees. And trees grow, and they grow, and they grow, which is wonderful. My mantra is, take your pick. You plant solar panels, or you plant trees. One or the other. But don't just let the land sit there and be fallow, especially old cow pastures and stuff, which used to have trees on them, right? So meter aggregation says, and this is what I did. I found a spot in Scott, Arkansas, near Bearskin Lake, and I put in a solar farm, and I put in a solar array, and I hooked the meter up to it. It's in my name, and that array and that meter measures energy production. In my house, 18 miles away in Little Rock, that meter measures energy consumption. So now I have 2 meters in my name. At the end of each billing period, they offset each other. Because I didn't have access on my property, this meter aggregation gives me an option to site it where there is good solar access.
Is that the same power company out?
It has to be the same power company. But the point is, and here's the thing, Entergy Arkansas Incorporated, EAI as they like to call themselves, they cover 30% of the land mass with their territory in Arkansas. But they have 70% of the consumption. They got, you know, the metropolitan areas. The co-ops, they cover 70% of the land mass.
That's what we're in the co-op.
And they provide 30% of the consumption. Well, so you wouldn't be eligible to site your solar array at the Bearskin Solar Farm because you're with the electric cooperative. But if you're anywhere else in the state and you have Entergy as your service provider, you can site your array in Scott, Arkansas. Meter aggregation is a very well-kept secret. We came back in 15. We had our head handed to us 9, 11, 13, and we didn't get enough, so we came back in 15 and they did it to us again. Couldn't make it out of a committee meeting. But what did they do? Oh yeah. The utilities, Entergy, wanted to build a solar farm in Arkansas County in Stuttgart. But they didn't want to own it. They wanted to lease it. They didn't even want to develop it. They wanted to hire it to be done. Well, they couldn't do that. But they wanted to do it, so they asked the legislator to sponsor HB 1633, one reading, passed, first time, And then 2 months later, they announced the 500-acre solar farm in Arkansas County. So if the utility wants a bill, no problem. If the citizens want one, good luck. All right, here's a little bit of an improvement. That's indefinite carryover of unused generation with the option of cashing out after 24 months. But the point is, indefinite carryover. Now, you don't forfeit your kilowatt hours unless you want to. And I tell people, go ahead and accumulate those things. Don't sell them for half the retail cost for them. Get you an electric car someday and start using those credits up, right? All of us, we should already be driving electric cars, but the powers that be kind of tamp that down considerably. Battery technology, I mean, every day of every minute of every day, there are labs all across the world improving battery technology, and the technology is coming just incredible. And despite the fact that we're in denial and not doing what we should do about it, there is hope that the technology will save us instead of ruin us. You know, the bills, the policy that we do end up with is always tempered by what the utilities can tamper it down by, right? And one of them was you couldn't have more than 25 kilowatts. So you had a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house like some people do. 25 kilowatts, you may only make a quarter of your energy needs. Now that's been lifted, and you go back the previous 12 months, you can make 110% of your highest 1-month bill in the previous 12 months, so that's good. And now here we are right now, outweighing the benefits and so forth. The difference is that Act 827 allowed cover for the utilities to be able to say it was the legislature's idea and not theirs. So in the original bill in 2001, there's wording like the third to last paragraph. If ever in the future the utilities are concerned that the cost of providing net metering to their customers outweighs the benefit, they can petition the Public Service Commission to open a docket to discuss it. They didn't have the, you know what I'm saying, to do it themselves. They had to say, oh, well, and the fact is, this language was dumped into the bill 30 minutes before they voted on it. But all it said was, oh, well, we need to look at that because the legislature is concerned that it might not be a good deal for all the other customers that aren't going solar. I'm like, okay, guys, let's go, you know, in the trenches again. Here we are in this docket. They also opened this one, nothing's been done on it yet. But this is the first ruling. We said, look, one of the reasons there's not solar going on in Arkansas is there's so much damn doubt about it. Not only that, there's lies, right? So the misinformation campaign is alive and well, and it has been and it will be. So they said, hey, the utilities said, as soon as this bill was signed, from that point forward, if you do a solar array, you're not going to be under the old rules. We're like, you just killed the solar business in Arkansas. So the PSC says, you're right. What we're saying is, if you do one between the time the docket was started and we think they're going to make a decision like in December, if you do an array, you're grandfathered in for the next 20 years. We said, that we can work with. We've been doing installations since then and doing more this month and more next month. They're in the pipeline. 30% federal tax credit. You may have heard about that. It came out in 2000. We've had the 30% tax credit since 2000. And in tax credit is a dollar for dollar reduction in the amount of taxes, federal taxes, that you owe. that be real money to you? If you invested $1 in a solar array and it saved you 30 cents in taxes, federal taxes, I would say that was pretty real money.
Is that in addition to the 25% from the state?
That technology rebate program
Mm-hmm.
was only for 18 months.
Ah,
They took $1 million of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds, designed the back office for $200,000 and put $800,000 into the program. No, but what we have had is accelerated depreciation. 5 years accelerated depreciation. Now, if you're an employee of a company, you're not in business for yourself, or you're retired and you're definitely not working for an employer or yourself, you can't claim accelerated depreciation. It's only for entrepreneurs, farmers, business owners. You know, I work out of my house. I claimed it. And so there's 30% federal tax credits start to be sunsetting out, phasing out in 2020. It's going to like 20%, and then 15%, and then 10%, and then it's supposed to be gone in like 2025 or so. Still here today. Now, we talked about 5 years accelerated depreciation. Our illustrious federal government said, you can do it in 1 year. It's always been 85% of the installed cost, but now, if you're in business, you can claim the 30% tax credit and 1 year's accelerated depreciation on 85% of the installed costs. Say, why only 85? Because they just gave you 30 cents back in a credit. They're not going to let you claim 100% of the installed cost, and the feds already gave you 30 cents back for every dollar that you invested. But 85% in 1 year is worth another, 20 or 30%, depending on your marginal tax bracket.
So does it have to be purchased in a business name?
No. I mean, you could be a sole proprietor. Yeah, you don't have to be incorporated. No, you just have to be in business. You run it by your accountant. So that's significant improvement. One of the only ones I can think of that the current administration has done for us. All right, so here's the earth-sheltered passive solar geodesic dome, and this is the south face, and that's a wall of windows 15 feet tall, 15 feet wide, with a significant overhang here and another one down here. This is 4 stories tall, 35 feet. There's an open ceiling from the first floor all the way to the 4th floor. So I stand in my den and I look out up, and I'm looking up 35 feet up to the 4th floor. Next door is my mother-in-law's house. I built that for her. People say, why would you move your mother-in-law? She was wonderful with my kids. They're, all grown and on their own now. I love her most of the time. These are solar hot water heater panels here, no electricity. And then these are 42 thin film laminates that are stuck to an architectural grade standing seam metal roof. So I would never do that again. When I say we roll form steel in the street in front of the house with a solar powered trailer, and then we stuck 22-foot long thin film laminate solar panels to it, and then ran the wires up through the ridge vent there. And the reason I wouldn't do that again, and I'm about to the point where I'm thinking about covering these things up, is it's better, because here's the thing, if you have a roof taking direct sun like that one is, so here it is taking direct sun, and then you put a solar array in front of it, but 4 to 6 inches away from it, now you've got energy being created on the top side and shade underneath. You just lowered the cooling load of that building by putting the solar array on it. When they're stuck, there's no shade, right? These are thin film amorphous silicon panels. They're like this thick. you need twice as many of those, and they have half the life expectancy of a regular solar panel. Frank, why did you do that? Well, just because we could, I guess.
Sounded good at the time.
Yeah. So the solar panels for this house are located actually on that building. Now, this is a building I found in Scott, Arkansas. It was kind of a wreck, even though it was only about 11 years old. Had an inspection done on it, and so you got 4 leaks in the roof. I'm like, okay, we need to get those fixed. And they went around and put some silicone caulk on some old, screws with the neoprene washers that degrade in about 5 years. If you're going to do it, I love metal roofs, but you don't want visible fasteners because they can't stand up to the sun's treatment. So I ended up putting a cool roof. Well, it rained and I had 24 leaks. I'm like, well, I'm not going to put.
We got up there and walked on it, didn't we?
Yeah, right. So I put a cool roof on it. This is a roof membrane, really designed for flat roofs. There's not a lot of slope here. My angle of incidence not so great on this. I make a lot more energy in the summer than I do in the winter. But these are an awning. I turned these panels into an awning to shade that south side of the building, right? And they had very much steeper slopes, so they create more in the wintertime. So that was an early shot. We did that right out of the gate. And then in 14 or 13 when we got, this was the first meter aggregated facility. So that's enough solar panels to make all the energy for what's going on here, and the excess I get to credit against my house. And about 6 months out of the year, I have a $12 electric bill in both locations. And here's the solar farm. So there's the building. This is a few years later. This road's in, this row, this row, this row, this row, and this row, and now we're building out this way. So that's like Highway 161, Highway 70's out here. Bearskin Lake is right across the street from the Bearskin Solar Farm. Had a radiologist, right? She's an orthopedic surgeon. That's his Prius. Doors open, trunks open, and he's standing somewhere with his drone controller and took the shot. Like, even if you don't want an array, I want that picture, and he sent it to me. So, the thing about solar panels now, okay, it's coming up. Here's my Bearskin Solar Center flyer. I have a little tube out at the Bearskin Solar Center. It's got a QR code on it. I have some handouts here if you're interested. You can take one with you. It's arkansas.solar. Those are my business cards. If you want to talk about doing something out there, we'd love to help you. The purchase price includes an initial 20-year land lease and a 25-year performance warranty with daily web access monitoring of the solar modules in each individual array, and modest annual maintenance fee is assessed to keep the grass mowed and the modules clean. So, whatever the cost is to install, and it's 20 panels, well, 8, we're down to 16 is a half, 32 is a, no, 18 is a half a row, 36 is a full row. 36 panels out there are running about $36,000. But it includes a single sum, it'd be $2,000 of that 36 is for the single sum, one-time, upfront, 20-year lease payment, right? So the guy that drew all the documents up and turned to Frank, man, you're shorting yourself on that. And I'm like, look, I'm not doing this project to make money. I'm doing it to demonstrate that it can be done. We got the legislation. This is the only community aggregated facility in the state. It's been almost 4 years since we started it. And we're going to do another one. It's going to be in Entergy service territory. But what cooperative are you with?
Page Electric.
Yeah, well, see, if we found 6 or 8 serious people inside of KDG and Electric, we would go find some property in their service territory and build a solar farm, and then do the arrays for those people. But you gotta have a little bit of economies of scale to even start one, right? So I have a handout for that. Frank at Arkansas.solar, email, and you can request to go to Arkansas.solar. People say, is that .net or .com or .org, or, so no, it's actually .solar. What? Well, a rocket science friend of mine called me up one day, just excited as all get out, and he goes, Frank, you can get .solar now. Extension on their web address. I'm like, I'll take Arkansas and Kelly. Kelly.solar and Arkansas.solar. So I have both of those now. There's kind of a close-up, the first 3 arrays. One dentist owns 40 and 40 panels. One attorney owns 40 panels there. It was 20 and 40 there. It's 18 and 36 on the other row. Here's the smartphone app, iPad app, computer app. You can look, here's 40 solar panels telling you what the output is minute by minute. So you can pull it up and say, how am I doing? There it is. Keeps a history of it for you and tell me how many, not this one, how many tons of carbon you kept out of the atmosphere and how many trees equivalent you could have planted just by having the solar array. That's the first time anybody's ever seen that logo except me and my wife. She's an artist, she designed it for me. So y'all are the first to see the Bearskin Solar Center logo.
I like it.
Why would we want to do solar? This would be the biggest reason right here. I only got a few slides left. And I'm doing pretty good on that. So, if you have a lump of coal and you send 70% of the embodied energy of that lump of coal up the smokestack, and you start off at 30%, you go all the way down to this projector, and it's coming out that outlet at 9.5% efficiency. That's terrible. Those are terrible numbers, and that has nothing to say about this in the business end of the process. This is what's destroyed the environment, and they're not even hardly even talking about what they're going to do with this, which is another major hazard. Just like storing spent nuclear fuel, for the most part, all the spent nuclear fuel is on the grounds of the nuclear facilities. All the spent coal ash is on the grounds of these coal-fired plants.
Yeah,
So
you don't have the energy it took to get that coal there either.
exactly, and it's all coming from the Powder River Basin of Wyoming. So we're 1,000 coal cars a day coming to Arkansas. They're burning that shit. We're left with this and the exhaust on it, and it's killing us, literally. So this wasn't designed to be efficient, first of all. But you know what's interesting about this design? This could be an internal combustion engine, and this would be your radiator. So you spark some gasoline here, and 70% of the heat goes into the radiator, and 30% starts off to your transmission. It wasn't designed to be efficient. It was designed to work. And it did, and we owe the coal mining areas of the country a debt of gratitude and good solar jobs in the future. As a matter of fact, well, solar beats natural gas peak power today. So basically nothing can compete. And here, gas peaker plant pollutes 3 times more than solar gas they're running all the time. So even gas, it may be cleaner burning than coal, but the harvesting, fracking and so forth, that is worse than burning coal, actually, when you get down to it. We can't keep doing that. And this is the slide I like to end with. because, this is what matters. What has got us to our current position is businesses are worried about the short-term profit, the intermediate-term profit, and the long-term profit. That's all they have ever been concerned with. Us and her didn't matter, and sometimes still don't. So it's the equal consideration. You need to make some money, no doubt about it, but you don't screw these guys and ruin this one. It has to be bearable, which is, we're unbearable now, completely unviable. We need it to be viable. It's definitely not equitable, and that's a good word, because I maintain that the electric utility industry has privatized their profits and socialized their costs. They dump the costs on her, and they privatize all the profits. And that has to end. And it's sustainability that'll do it. That's the word. The U.S. Green Building Council brought that word, sustainable, to higher top of mind words, more so than any other organization on the planet right now. And so if there's one take home, that would be what I would want you to take away from this presentation. Now, we didn't talk about being off grid. I read that in the brochure this morning. I'm like, oh, I had my own battery. Actually, my mother-in-law, that house, has a forklift battery in a closet. We moved it from the trailer to the closet with ancient Egyptian technology. They weighed 3,000 pounds. What they were about 3 foot long, 1 inch diameter solid steel rods. And we just rolled it and keep moving the rods until we got all the way to the closet. So, but the point is, people say, well, I have to have a battery if I'm going solar. Only if you want uninterruptible power. Only if you are not connected to the grid. The problem with net metering for the utilities is they lose sales. We offered them a solution to that in 4 legislative sessions. Instead of losing sales, they would have gained generation partners. They don't want to lose sales, and they don't want generation partners. They want it all, right? They don't want to share any of the sand in the sandbox. Now let's go back to AT&T, Bell, and the answering machines way back, the Codaphone. Bell said, you can't hook that equipment to our phone line. It has to be Bell equipment. And it went, to the Supreme Court, and they said, you can hook any damn equipment you want up to the system. Same thing with solar. The hurdles, hoops, barriers, rules, regulations, they're doing everything they can to keep us from hooking up to their wires. But I call it the democratization of energy generation. I don't have my cell phone on me. Does anybody here not have a cell phone? Right, well, that's the democratization of communication. And there was resistance at the beginning. The resistance in Arkansas is a lot greater than it is in a lot of other states. If you haven't early voted, please vote. Vote for the right person. Get educated. If you need some pointers or tips or suggestions, I'll